What's in your hand? Tonight we'll be talking about it. The All in Life from April 19th with Pastor Eric Peoples. We're going to lead off tonight with Exodus chapter 4, verses 1 through 4. But Moses protested again. What if they won't believe me or listen to me? What if they say the Lord never appeared to you? Then the Lord asked him, what is that in your hand? A shepherd's staff, Moses replied. Throw it down on the ground, the Lord told him. So Moses threw down the staff and it turned into a snake. Moses jumped back. Then the Lord told him, reach out and grab its tail. So Moses reached out and grabbed it, and it turned back into a shepherd's staff in his hand. Well, there's a lot more that's good in that chapter, so we encourage you to continue reading all of Exodus 4. Joe, we're going to hop to you first. There was a lot to talk about in this Sunday's message. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions here is, as you think about Moses and his staff, what stands out to you most about God starting with what was already in Moses' hand?
One of the things that I relate to in Moses and many others is, does what I offer actually matter to God? You know, because he had a staff in his hand, and once he released his grip, God used it. You know, that staff was used when he struck the rock and then water came out. It was used to fend off an army. It was used in a multitude of scenarios in Egypt. And so, you know, it's not about performance, it's about heart posture. And Moses had a heart posture when he finally released what he needed to so that God could use him for his purposes.
There's a lot in that. The performance, the heart posture. Nicole, earlier you were talking about imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Tell us about that a little bit, because that ties into performance, right?
Yeah. Imposter syndrome is about feeling like you're not enough, or feeling like you're not really measuring up to what you think a certain, persona is. I'd grown up in the children's ministry and stuff. I had imposter syndrome because I didn't think that I would end up, going back, teaching the kids and things like that. But once I let that doubt and that fear go, actually, I had a lot of fun. And the Lord really showed me a lot of, great things through, teaching the kids.
Yeah. And I feel like identity that God has given to us and what he's already resourced us with and put in our hands, a lot of times that's challenged in the world too, maybe even in the church as well, and within our own selves. We think about these things and we say, oh, but God, do I really have enough? Do I have what I need to meet this season, to meet this task? And he's clearly saying, yes. Yes, you do. Colleen, what are your thoughts?
I'm thinking of a couple things in regards to the staff. Pastor Eric mentioned it was ordinary, right? It was ordinary. He's doing the ordinary job of running a farm. Yeah. He had experienced already what it was to live in the palace, but he's probably content where he's at. And now God's got, had probably been doing some work on his heart and on his perspectives over that 40 years. And now on an ordinary day, he showed up and said, I've got this big job for you. And,
After 40 years of no platform.
Right, exactly, right? And he didn't think he was cut out for it. He didn't think that he would be, just like you said, imposter. He's like, well, I'm going to go back to Egypt and say, what? What if they don't believe me? So it's like, don't we all often quickly go to doubting ourselves, or even doubting what it is God has already placed in our hands, that it could be valuable. So it's a good thing to look at. What do we have? And I think that's, part of the reason I love like personality typing or strength finders and different things, DISC and Enneagram and all these different things, because we learn about ourselves. And then we start to realize, well, the things that I have that I think are ordinary, now, resourced with the Holy Spirit, are actually extraordinary. So it's, just a different way. That's why I love to learn. I love to learn about people and how they tick and what
same here.
What they're passionate about, and just, and how to sometimes just helping them, which is what I love about coaching, get from A to B, because they just are stuck a little bit.
Yeah.
And they need just some.
They need to get out of that I can't mindset too. I presently struggle with, here's what we're going to do to get better.
Yeah. Yeah, like, and everything, we've said it here before, baby steps, right? You're not going to go running a marathon the next day when you just decide to go buy your running shoes. But you're going to start to train. You're going to start to practice. You're going to start to figure out what you can build on.
I also think, too, a lot of us don't really like change or don't really like our lives to be disturbed, kind of tying back with the message from last week. A lot of us don't really like our lives to be, interrupted. And Moses was comfortable where he was. He didn't want his life to be disturbed or, to go back to Egypt. There required a lot of sacrifice apart from the heart posture and the mindset on his from what he had. So I think that's really interesting to look into and think about. How much are we holding on to things because it's comfortable for us?
That's a good point.
Yeah. These are really challenging and encouraging words that you all are speaking, even for myself. And Joe, when you said that for 40 years, he didn't have a platform and things like that, when I was 17, now, this was just over 40 years ago, if I'm going to be fully transparent. Someone spoke into my life and said, have you ever thought about writing a book? And I said, no. Yeah. What would I write on? Why would you even think that I would do this? And someone in the church, as a mentor to me, was saying, I could see this gift and this talent in you. And so I've lived 42 years. So the number keeps on moving up on my age. Without a specific platform, but I've stewarded some time recently to tell my story via podcasts. And so that's how I've started to just steward that. But even that identity thief and that imposter syndrome from the beginning to say, what do I have to share? I think Moses also was a person who said, but Lord, I'm not a great speaker. I don't do public speaking well. And God said,
yeah, pick somebody else.
Yeah, right? What's in your hand? And what have I inspired you to do? Wow. So if Jesus looked at your life today, Nicole, we'll put this question to you and said, there's still one thing you haven't done. What do you honestly suspect he would name? What's for you to do? What's on your horizon? Do you feel like the Lord is leading you into a certain area that you've maybe hesitated or said, I'm still comfortable where I'm at. I'm not sure I want to take that step.
I think I have to still, think about that and pray about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting question.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes, depending on where we are in our lives, we're just kind of feeling out the path and feeling out the discernment of, all right, is this even relevant for me? How about you guys, Joe, Colleen? Do you have any things that you feel is still on your docket that the Lord is inspiring you to do that you've kind of been a little hands-off with?
Sure. Way back when, a few years ago, I remember Peter Bruno which is one of Eric's mentors, actually spoke to me right in front of the church about one certain aspect of my talents that I hadn't really fostered too much as far as writing is concerned. And there are certain writing pieces that I just stewed on and just didn't touch just for fear of how they would be received. And I think more and more I'm trying to delay it by self-sabotaging by editing and editing and editing until perfection.
Yes.
Whereas you should just,
Yes.
Here you go.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. No, but I think there is a set end point and I feel it.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And there's power in a personal advisory board. So if you don't have one right now, it's just a collection of people in your life, maybe a handful, maybe a few less. Could be 2 to 5 people who you consider maybe trusted voices, perhaps a mentor in there, to say, what do you think about this? In my story, with my story, my advisory board said, launch. I kept on saying, launch it. I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't ready, but I did. And I'm happy I did, because sometimes that's all you need is that encouragement to put your toes in the water. I like that. I like that a lot. Colleen, how about you? Is there anything that's in your heart that the Lord has been working with you on to take one more step, put your hands forward, get all in?
Well, since you're both talking about writing, I have been writing with a writing group. Joe and I are actually in together.
Oh, okay.
And so when I started the group, my goal was to put the collection together to see God's grace throughout my life, particularly where I hadn't yet maybe formally acknowledged it. So that has happened. There's a lot of, I think I've been writing for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
And, presenting a piece monthly. So I do think there's actually 2 books in it. So I'm kind of in this weird space of how do I now, what's the next step with how to do that? And then the other thing that goes along with that is if it's a book you really do want to share with people the story of God's grace in my life, then I think I need to get a little more forward-facing when it comes to what I've also been kind of stuck on in regards to even coaching is that I don't do much on social media. I don't get out, again, like there's an uncomfortability there for me to put myself out into the public and that. And what's funny is like last year I had begun to shift my mindset about, I am a successful life coach and, just started to just really change how I was viewing it. I'm no longer an imposter wondering about being a life coach. I am a successful life coach. Yeah. And I got 3 calls within 2 weeks, for brand new clients. So I was like, okay, I've been holding myself up saying, I can't get on Instagram and I don't know how to build a website and I don't know, and my oldest daughter had once said to me, just stop, just record something, and I'm like, but like how many buts?
And the buts never end.
Yeah, they just keep coming.
Yeah.
So, areas I've been stuck that I do think God's been so wonderfully gracious and gentle and kind with me as I've been paddling, the doggy paddle, of not really doing much of a breaststroke forward, but, so that's, I'm looking forward to it because I'm feeling more, a little bit more, like you said, endpoint, like, okay, let's launch. You used the word launch. Let's do a little more with that. So,
and I love this. I think we're going to wrap it up right here because here at Legacy, we have life groups. This podcast that you're listening to and enjoying is part of a life group. We're in community with each other, and we get the chance to try on different things that we feel the Lord is inspiring us to do. We also have a memoir group, writing your memoir. Maybe I need to get into that in the upcoming months. But these are things that are benefits to us when we're in community with people. We have the valued mentors, we have some peers, and we have those that we can mentor as well with our experience. So that is happy, healthy relationships, putting our hand to work with all its might in whatever God has called us to do. That's Ecclesiastes 9:10. So today is your prompting. It's your cue. See what's in your hand. What are you holding in your hand? What's there? What's been germinating for a little while? And take a couple of pages from tonight from our guests, Nicole and Joe and Colleen. And thank you so much for being with us, for sharing your insights, because there's something to take away from each one. I love it. Thank you. And that wraps our season for Voices of Legacy Season 2. Come back with us in the fall for Voices of Legacy Season 3. We look forward to seeing you then or seeing you here in Farmington. Come join us. Remember, we'll give you a nice warm cup of coffee when you come. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Voices of Legacy, where we discuss and apply what we've heard on Sunday mornings. For more information on Legacy Church, follow our socials or go to legacychurchct.org.